Hello and welcome to Original Soundchat, where video game music is a work of art. On each episode, it's our goal to help you learn about 2 soundtracks from the world of games, as well as the people, stories, and critical tracks behind them. My name is Joe DeVader.
And I'm Peter Spezia. We're brought to you by Anonymous Dinosaur and Rhymes with Asia. It's time to appreciate great OSTs and the games that they come from, without getting too bogged down in music theory. Up first this week for our 2 games is 2006's Wii Sports, Nintendo's bundled-in title for the popular motion-controlled console, bringing simulations of bowling, tennis, and more to the general public, all within the comfort of home.
Following that is the bizarre, adorable, and extremely off-putting adventure about catching creatures that are kinda bug and kinda snack, 2020's Bugsnax.
What would the theme be between these 2 games? Well, they're both console launch titles. Of course, Wii Sports on the Nintendo Wii, and Bugsnax for PlayStation 5. If you want to go a little deeper, if you happen to have a PlayStation Plus membership, you could, in a way, rationalize that you were getting Bugsnax for free at launch because, hey, it was included in your PlayStation Plus games if you were a member. And Wii Sports was just free in general, bundled in. Unless if you were in Japan. Apparently it was bundled everywhere but there. But we'll talk about that when we get to it.
I did not know that, actually. Not in Japan, huh?
Neither did I. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I would have to go look into how it did in Japan. I don't know if this is the kind of game that Japan would be super down with, but maybe. I mean, it's got cute characters in it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I didn't really find a reason for why that was the case, but we'll do some speculation, some discussion there about these games today. Joe, how are you doing? What are you playing?
Well, I finished Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Hey, there's a good Kirby game. It's a good, fun Kirby game. And my Switch bedtime game is now 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim.
Oh, fun.
Which, after about 2 combined hours of play, I'm still about halfway through the tutorial. Or at least the chapter-marked tutorial. It's very interesting so far. I haven't been put in control of all the characters quite yet. And to be honest, you probably won't hear me talk anymore about it because it is apparently very famously one of those games that is super easy to accidentally spoil.
Yeah, spoilers all over the place and best to go in blind, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I guess just know that you're getting into some gameplay that's like light strategy, sort of tactical turn-based RPG stuff.
It's sort of RTS-ish, but time freezes when you're making a decision. It's weird. I don't fully know how to explain it. And then outside of that, it's basically a visual novel, but you also have control over your character walking around. And all the artwork is gorgeous. I will say that. That ain't a spoiler. I mean, it's Vanillaware, so obviously
right, yeah.
it's their thing. But yeah, it's very pretty as well. So yeah, it is really, really well suited to the Switch. Crazy well suited to the Switch. I'm very happy that it's a good port, unlike many of the other Switch ports that have been coming out recently.
Speaking of which, I hope you get to finish Danganronpa V3 at some point.
Yeah, we both plan to get back to it in our own time, but at a certain point, for anybody that does not know, we were streaming it, and that game has given us more trouble than literally any other game I've ever streamed, ever. And we had to stream Project 64 at one point. So, and at a certain point, we just decided, yeah, this game doesn't want us to stream it, obviously.
Well, when you lose hours of progress to save files not loading or saving, like that's tough.
Yeah, it's, at a certain point, we just gotta accept it. So, I do plan on hopefully finishing it on my own time. I think I'm gonna put it on a hiatus for now, though. And, cause I am enjoying it. But, yeah, Little bit of a soured experience, but that does not mean I quit, personally.
I wish I could get into a game or just find time to sit down. That's like more than an hour. Because at that point, it's like, do I really want to start something new? Like, I feel like an hour is not enough time. So what did I do? I just played a run of Hades. And that was nice and refreshing. That was all nice and good.
The perfect game for just sitting down and playing a couple runs.
Yeah, I had some good fun with that. Well, last week on our composer follow-up news, we hardly had anything. But this week, on the other hand, oh boy, we've talked about plenty of composers on the show. We like to follow up with what they're doing, how their music and games is being used with headlines in the game industry. We have to start with the big game announcement of the week, and that's Sonic Origins. We knew that Sonic Origins was a thing going back to last year, that it was going to be a compilation, a remastered sort of compilation to celebrate the anniversary. It's now the 31st anniversary since that kind of slipped there for Sonic. Oops. But it's going to include the first 3 Sonic games, Sonic 3 and Knuckles, as well as Sonic CD. And we officially got confirmation that Sonic Origins launches June 23rd, which is the Sonic the Hedgehog anniversary. It's launching digitally for all major platforms, and it'll cost about $40 for a regular version. There's $45 in the United States for a digital deluxe version. There are pre-order bonuses. It's a mess. They put out this complicated chart of all these weird things that you're getting with it. But yeah, I think the ultimate key point is we've talked about that we're going to be doing a Sonic CD episode at some point, where that game famously has a Japanese and a Western soundtrack, and they're totally different. So you can probably guess when we're going to be doing that episode.
It doesn't super affect me because I don't plan on buying Sonic Origins. Like, classic Sonic, it's just not my thing. I do agree with some people that are kind of bummed that there is no physical edition whatsoever at all. That is unfortunate because I know a lot of people, like my roommate, for instance, it's an anniversary game. You want to have that, like, physically to sort of, you know, be the anniversary thing to remember it by. So that's the only bummer. I know some people are like really up in arms about the price. I think the price is fine for 4 games. You know. But hey, Speaking of Sega, in less happy terms, or more happy? I don't know. We'll have to see. Bloomberg reports that Sega is reportedly looking to develop Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio reboots in their Super Game initiative, which is something that's partnered with Microsoft and its Azure cloud platform to make large game worlds that can compete with Epic's Fortnite. First of all, maybe that can work for Crazy Taxi. I don't know, a giant map. If you don't change anything else about Crazy Taxi, you're good. Meanwhile, if we finally get a new Jet Set Radio and it's just, we tried to do Fortnite with spray paint, I'm gonna be so sad.
Yeah, that's just a wasted opportunity.
All of the different reboots that have been pitched to Sega over the years, and this is the one you're gonna actually make. Ugh.
Because Fortnite as a concept is the one that makes the money.
Ugh.
So yeah, we'll see how that ends up shaking out. It's first I had heard of the Super Game Initiative, but it was certainly an interesting report that came across the way. Speaking of things coming up, like release dates, who has ever heard lately of a release date moving up? Well, that happened with Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which is bumping up its release date to July 29th of this year. Formerly, when it got revealed at the last Nintendo Direct, it was a September 2022 release date. Something must be shifting on the back end if they're able to do something like that.
Maybe. I mean, it might just be that nobody told Nintendo they're supposed to go the other way. They know that, right? I mean, I know they know that. They did it last week, or like 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it's weird. This is really, really weird. But if it's ready, I guess. Maybe they expected like Splatoon 3 to be ready by now or something.
Right.
And maybe there's something wrong with that.
You got to wonder between that, Bayonetta 3, I mean, whatever's going on for the rest of their calendar year, however they're slating the rest of their games.
Or maybe this means we were supposed to get Zelda in July. That's not at all what it means. But yeah, I imagine it's just something that was supposed to release this summer now isn't, so they needed something to fill the hole. Who knows, honestly.
But we love specific release dates. It just means we can pencil in certain game ideas for some of our episodes down the line.
Mm-hmm. In rhythm game news, music from The World Ends With You and Neo, The World Ends With You, is coming to Groove Coaster YY Party, which is a Switch rail-based rhythm game from Taito that also features Gawagura. I am contractually obligated to mention that. It's coming this month. I still have not bought this game. This has been a game that's been on my radar for a real long time. I know Matt did the Switch review way back in the day and said it was super good. And now that music from, in my opinion, two of the better soundtracks video games have to offer is coming to it, this is pushing me a little bit farther. The problem is it's still like $40. So who knows? But I'm super excited to see The World Ends With You music showing up literally anywhere, especially when Neo bombed so absurdly hard.
Yeah, good to see you get more of an opportunity and some more FaceTime. You know it's triple the price of $40? A $120 vinyl record box set for the Ace Attorney franchise. A new box set that features 121 tracks from all 6 mainline games is available for pre-order now from Laced Records, and it's shipping October 2022. That's kind of amazing, but also daunting.
Oh, man. If I had $120, though, if I had $120 just sitting around, I would have bought this already. I would have bought a lot of things, but even the packaging looks really nice. I don't even own a vinyl player, and I want this so bad. I do wish that Great Ace Attorney had been packaged in there, but, I mean, if it's just supposed to be the 6 mainline games, alright, fine, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, the Layton spin-off, the Gyakuten Kenji, the Miles Edgeworth games, I mean, that'd be great, but if it's just Gyakuten Saiban, okay, that's fine by me.
Yeah. And I mean, hey, all good soundtracks. One day I want to be able to look at things like this and afford them, but that day is not today. And lastly, on our composer follow-up news, Assassin's Creed Origins and For Honor are both coming to Xbox Game Pass, quote, in the next 2 months, as Ubisoft explores their relationship with the service, which given some of the news stories that go out about Ubisoft, is a way to word that.
I mean, I think it's more that, their Ubisoft Plus subscription service probably isn't going as well as they like. Mm-hmm. And so maybe they're just seeing if they want to dip their toes in some other subscription-based game services.
Maybe they want to do it like EA currently does it, where a Game Pass subscription automatically gets you an EA Play subscription as well, essentially.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And boy, if that happens, oh boy. Get ready for Microsoft to get even bigger and bigger and Game Pass more and more expensive.
How does it make money?
But at least I'd be excited to get more people exposed to Assassin's Creed Origins. We really did enjoy our episode that featured composer Sarah Schachner on that one. So get that out there. Absolutely. Game Pass is getting some good titles on it.
I'd potentially give it a shot. I mean, we talked about last week, True Colors hit Game Pass, which people should go play that as well. It's pretty good. So it just keeps growing.
It's on my list of many games to start for sure. Let's talk about a game that dips into nostalgia, though. And let's talk about our first game this week. That is Wii Sports. Wii Sports was released as a free game that was included at the launch of the Nintendo Wii in Western game markets. It released November 19th, 2006 in North America, and December 7th and 8th in Australia and Europe, respectively, at the Nintendo Wii's launch. But yes, like we mentioned earlier in the show, it is not a pack-in title in Japan.
That's so weird.
I know, but it's still released on the Wii's launch date there on December 2nd, 2006. The game is developed by Nintendo EAD and published by Nintendo. It is a sports simulation game where you can participate in 5 different sports: tennis, baseball, bowling, golf, and boxing. The games use the motion sensor capabilities of the Wii Remote controller to control the player's dominant arm or the appropriate sports equipment that it wields, while boxing utilizes both the Wii Remote and the nunchuck controller and uses those gestures to control both of the player's arms to punch and block and whatever you need to do. Not only are there single-player and local multiplayer modes available for each of the sports, but training mode provides increasingly difficult challenges to hone your skills. What's the story of Wii Sports? You play sports. Can you set new high scores? And can you beat your friends? That's literally it. So, Joe, here's where I'll ask you, what are our experiences with Wii Sports?
Well, I, like literally everybody else on Earth, found my family very interested in playing Wii Sports when the Wii came out, because that was a system seller. It was a good decision to pack that thing in because people wanted to play bowling. Because that was a big one. That was the big one, was bowling. And tennis. Tennis was also very popular, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I personally played more of and prefer Wii Sports Resort. But yeah, like when you bought a Wii, you got Wii Sports. I played a lot of Wii Sports back in the day. Not much more to say about that.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. As someone who was a college student starting in the fall of 2006, I mean, freshman year at university, for the Wii to drop in November 2006, I mean, that was everything. So, yeah, when you gather in someone's dorm room who had a Nintendo Wii and you play Wii Sports, I mean, that was the big thing to do. I agree with you. Wii Sports Resort was a very good sequel that really took advantage of the Motion Plus technology for better motion and tilting and accelerometer, all that, all the better fidelity there. But there is something about Wii Sports where it was a cultural zeitgeist moment. Nintendo had that whole thing where they wanted to invite everyone to play games, even people who didn't usually play console games in the living room, in the home. And boy, they succeeded. It wasn't the most accurate thing. I'm sure there were ways that you could cheese the bowling mini game and all that, but man, it got people up and excited to play, and integrated all of the unique parts of the Wii system with the motion controller, with the Miis, to bring those into it, and you customize your own Miis and then have yourself represented in the game. So smart. I agree. I don't think I would have necessarily thought that people would have bought the game on its own.
We have proof of that. It's 1-2 Switch.
Yeah. And when we look back at 1-2 Switch, we're like, how was that not a packing game? Because that was like the same thing, trying to do, that with the HD Rumble and everything with the Joy-Cons. So, yeah. So I think that's really good proof there.
It should also be noted that not only did it integrate motion controls that everybody could do, it also, for a while, integrated a lot of Wiimotes into television screens.
Yes.
Which was also a very fun genre of YouTube video for a while.
Oh my gosh, I still is today, honestly. And why you have the different, wear your strap on.
Please put a wrist strap on, we beg you.
It has that sort of feeling of, remember, like when people were like, oh, get the person on the wrist strap notification on before the game start and all that. Get that person in Smash Brothers. Like, it has that same kind of feeling that just had to be a thing. They had to ship out new, wrist straps because they had to be a little more sturdy. Yeah, that was definitely a time. And you can even go back to like, oh, that was because Nintendo didn't launch the Wii in HD because HD televisions weren't as big of a thing. So yeah, going through CRT TVs even. Woo. Let's talk about the development though for Wii Sports. There's only some information. I think it was a lot of Nintendo kind of just reflecting on it and not necessarily giving so much, behind the scenes information, but learned a couple things here. Of course, with Nintendo Wii, Nintendo desired to reach people who had never played video games before. Tap into that blue ocean market that had not been really brought into the fold of video games yet in the mid-2000s. And so to do this, they needed software that allowed both long-time and first-time players and have them interact together in a fun way. And they did this by picking sports in a compilation here that were immediately familiar, but also with simplified controls. So think, for example, with tennis in Wii Sports, you don't have the nunchuck controller attached and you're moving the analog stick to go and hit the ball. No. That would not be that engaging or intuitive for a first-time player. Instead, the Mii character automatically runs to where the ball is going to go. You just need to swing with the right timing. That's much easier. So, after they had picked all these games, they started to develop the titles. And at one point, Super Mario characters were used as like the main playable characters. But they were eventually removed because of feedback from players who actually preferred the use of Miis. And yeah, what a smart decision, because that only further integrated the kind of basic educational first Wii game where you're creating these Mii characters in the menu and then look, you can use these and make ones for your friends, and then you see your friends in Wii Sports. Is such a smart idea, but I had no idea that Mario characters were first considered for this game.
I think I might have kind of knew that, but I'm not sure why I would have.
It's certainly a weird piece of trivia there.
Maybe it was a Super Mario broth thing.
Maybe. So, after lots of discussion internally at Nintendo, they decided to include Wii Sports with the Wii consoles that were sold outside of Japan. Again, I couldn't find why that decision was made to say, well, Japan, they can buy it if they want to. It still seemed to be pretty popular. I mean, of course, people who'd played games for a long time were buying The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess at launch, but this seemed to be another good game to get if they wanted to, but obviously didn't have the mass adoption with this game like it did in Western markets. And in the United States, for example, this interview with Satoru Iwata, the late president of Nintendo, he was saying that like all my American friends are telling me like what a big hit it is and how everyone's playing it at house parties and things like that. And they didn't really expect it. In fact, they were saying, if anything, more often than not, they were stuck with the game whether they liked it or not. But because of these, Wii Sports parties and people playing the Wii like this, it really spread the word of mouth, and that really helped the Wii become the success that it was.
Something about wording it is like, no, you own this game now. There's nothing you could do about it.
Deal with it. On 3DS, it's Face Raiders. Deal with it.
Oh, God. I'd rather have Wii Sports over Face Raiders any day of the week.
Yep. So when it came to kind of advertising the game and bringing it to press shows, Wii Sports Tennis was shown at a Nintendo press summit that took place before E3 2006. And it was just the tennis game, but it was branded as Wii Sports Tennis. And so then at the E3 2006 conference, then President Satoru Iwata announced that Wii Sports would be a package of different activities, including tennis, golf, and baseball. Fun fact, on the Expo show floor that year, Wii Sports Airplane was an available demo. And it was similar to Pilot Wings in the sense that it required the player to maneuver an airplane through rings within a time frame. Of course, this would be scrapped and then later added to the game's sequel.
It was one of my favorite modes in the sequel, actually.
Yeah, but I could also see why it would need some more precise motion control and things like that. So that makes sense why that happened. The announcements of bowling and boxing being included, as well as the free bundling of the game into the system, took place in September 2006, just 2 months before the system's launch. The game reviewed favorably, with a Metacritic average of 76. Points of praise included the game being a showpiece for the Wii, the variety of activities you could do, the intuitive controls, and simple, accessible gameplay for new players. Criticisms, though, included very simple graphics, the overall lack of depth in the games, like it was easy to play but also easy to master. People complained about an absent tournament mode in the different games, and overall, I agree with the criticism of it's just a shallow experience overall.
Mm-hmm. Which is why it's a good thing it was a pack-in. It would not have sold otherwise.
Absolutely, and it also helped the sales numbers of the game because Wii Sports sold just shy of 83 million copies. It is the best-selling single-platform game of all time. It's the best-selling Nintendo game of all time, and the 4th best-selling video game of all time.
Cheating.
I mean, when it's that much of a success and it's bundled in all of these systems, okay, fair. But, Joe, here's a fun fact trivia for you, and also people listening at home. Can you name the current top 5 best-selling video games of all time?
I know number 1 is Minecraft.
Correct.
Like, by far. Is Super Mario Brothers still in there?
It is not.
Wow, really? Is Tetris in there?
Number 3.
Okay. I assume a Call of Duty is in there.
It isn't.
Really?
Need to think of a game that's been sold for almost 10 years now, and it keeps getting ported to current platforms.
Is it Resident Evil 4?
It is not Resident Evil 4.
Oh, is it Doom?
Not Doom.
Wow. Those are my 2 go-tos for that.
Think Rockstar.
GTA 5.
Grand Theft Auto 5 is the number 2 best-selling game of all time. So Wii Sports is number 4. I would not have been able to guess what the 5th best-selling game of all time is, and I'll give you 2 more guesses.
That's a really... It's not FF7, is it?
Not FF7. It's a game that I believe has Korean publishers.
I have no idea.
Number 5 would be one PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
Oh?
Yeah, surprised me too.
I guess it can't be Fortnite since Fortnite is free.
Yeah. I don't even know where Fortnite would stand on that list, to be honest.
That's really, really weird. Well, yeah, that gets into, like, would Fortnite still be as successful as it is if it wasn't free and all that? Odd. All right. Okay. I never would have guessed that.
Now I'm curious. Fortnite sales. Tim Sweeney, as of March 2019, said there were close to 250 million Fortnite players, which would put it at number 1. So it's a weird statistic anyway. I don't even know if PUBG is now shifted to like a free-to-play sort of model, but yeah.
It is not, as far as I'm aware.
Okay. So, I mean, maybe that's the distinction there, but yeah, I just thought that was weird and thought it'd be some fun trivia time here. Wii Sports was nominated for 7 BAFTAs, winning 6, including Sports, Innovation, Gameplay, Multiplayer, Casual, and Strategy and Simulation. It was nominated for 8 Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences Awards, which we now know as the DICE Awards, and it won 3, including Outstanding Innovation in Gaming, Outstanding Achievement in Gameplay Engineering, and Outstanding Achievement in Game Design. Time Magazine and the New York Times recognized it as Game of the Year, And at the Spike Video Game Awards, it was nominated for Most Addictive Video Game, where it lost to Halo 3. And that was like the only award it was nominated for that year. And yet, at the end of the decade, it was nominated for Best Game of the Decade, which it lost to Half-Life 2. It feels like it's a game that is more recognized fondly and retroactively for what it did for motion control games in general and introducing console video games to a more general audience.
Which, could be seen as a really great thing, or could also be seen as one of the darkest periods of Nintendo.
Yeah, depending on how you look at it. But the game obviously did well enough to deserve a sequel that had more sports and more refined motion plus control technology, and that would be the aforementioned Wii Sports Resort, which released in 2009 for Wii, while a high-definition remake, Wii Sports Club, was released in 2013 for Wii U.
I forgot Wii Sports Club existed until now.
I mean, yeah, me too. I feel like Wii Sports Club is one of the games that I regret most as a purchase. So, Wii Sports Club, when I bought it, I was living with my brother, and he has like a projector wall set up for his entertainment center, and the Wii U was down there at the time. And when I fired up Wii Sports Club, all excited to play it, just to play some of these games with new ways at the tablet in HD, maybe even online and all that, the sensor bar did not function properly. And I'd played so many Wii U games at that point that did not need the Wii remote and the sensor bar, but there was something about the infrared technology that was just, I thought like different infrared points were all over the place, and the Wii remote was just like freaking out. And I'm like, oh, I can't play this adequately. And so that was my Wii Sports Club experience. I still have my Wii U. Maybe I should boot it up sometime and see. I don't know.
Yeah, I never played it. I never touched it. Like I said, I forgot it existed until literally this moment.
It's probably for the best. Though I know that some people were still playing it to this day. And you know what? Maybe they'll be transitioning over to a new game, because another sequel, Nintendo Switch Sports, will be released for the Nintendo Switch this Friday on April 29th, 2022. Of the 6 sports that will be included at launch on Nintendo Switch Sports, tennis and bowling, the 2 most popular ones, return from the original Wii Sports, while golf will be an added sport in a free update in fall 2022. So, who are we talking about for the music this week on Wii Sports? Let's talk about Taro Bando. And Taro Bando is not a composer. Well, we'll get to what he does shortly. See, Taro Bando was born in Japan. Don't really have any birth date information for him. Don't even have any blood type information about him. Though, after graduating from his university program, he officially joined Nintendo in 1987, and he's still with the company today. That's wild. So one of the big things that Taro Bando does is he records sound effects. He's credited with sound effects on this game, and also played a big hand in the original Animal Crossing release. So he appeared in a couple interviews back in the Animal Crossing days to try to discuss like how do you make Animal Crossing come to life? And so he says, quote, for Animal Crossing, a lot of the sounds were recorded straight from nature and inserted into the game. Each time the seasons change, new insects appear in Animal Crossing. And for those sounds, I actually went to the mountains in Fushimi and recorded the local insects there. It was a real pain getting a recording of the cicadas. So for Animal Crossing, he ended up recording over 500 different sound effects, 100 of which were different kinds of footsteps. And so you can think for Wii Sports, like all the different sound effects that are involved in that game, it's a game that doesn't rely too heavily on a soundtrack, because when you're mainly playing the games, it's all about like the ambiance. And think like for tennis. Like during the rallies and all, like, you're not having a soundtrack play, but you're having the different hits of the tennis racket kind of be the auditory ambience of the game. So Taro Bando, an important figure to cover. And for a fun trivia fact, he was also the normal staff ghost for Piranha Plant Slide in Mario Kart 7. He did some music composition work, though, composing for Shin Onigashima, Mole Mania, F-Zero X, and he was also part of the original music team for Super Smash Bros. And Super Smash Bros. Melee. Though it seems like F-Zero X is the big one. If we ever wanted to talk about that game, it's like, oh, he would have been a composer for that game. But good to talk about him here because he's big in sound effects in the Nintendo universe, contributing sound effects for Super Mario Kart, Mario Kart 64, F-Zero X, Mario Party, Animal Crossing, Mario Kart Double Dash, Mario Power Tennis, Mario Superstar Baseball, Animal Crossing Wild World, Wii Sports, Animal Crossing City Folk, Super Mario Sluggers, Mario Kart 7, Pikmin 3, The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds, Steel Divers Sub Wars, Mario Kart 8, The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, and most recently, Ring Fit Adventure. He also contributed as sound supervisor to Mario Hoops 3-on-3, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games, Mini Mario and Friends Amiibo Challenge, Mario Party Star Rush, Mario Sports Superstars, and Mario Party The Top 100. Not too much historical development research out there for Wii Sports, though it's important to note that the music that is there is composed by one Kazumi Totaka. And we talked about Totaka in episode 40 of Original Soundchat for his work on Luigi's Mansion. I feel like the biggest discussion point, knowing that Totaka is in the game, people, especially in the mid-2000s, discovering Totaka's song, wondered, is Totaka's song in Wii Sports? And for a quick refresher, Totaka's song is the little melody that exists where Kazumi Totaka likes to find a way to work in this little dun 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 dun, like this little melody. It kind of first came to prominence in Mario Paint, but all these different games he's worked on, Animal Crossing, Luigi's Mansion, like how does this little melody pop up? And so for years, people were wondering, does Wii Sports have Totaka's song? Well, the old game trailers show, Pop Fiction, posted an episode back in 2012 claiming that it's the tennis racket hits from long rallies that would play the notes of the song. And if you string them together, oh, that would be Totaka's song, especially if you compare it to the Mario Paint version. And, if you kind of scrutinize that a little bit more, it ends up being inconclusive, kind of ends up being more of an auditory illusion where you believe what you want to hear, like that kind of phenomenon. So there doesn't really seem to be any evidence for Totaka's song being in the game. I think even in a time when people are doing disc diving and reading all the data and all that, people haven't found any definitive proof of Totaka's song being in there, much less how you would cue it up. And that seems to kind of have been a thing in the Wii games, that has kind of gone away, but I don't know, kind of a shame, but probably the biggest important musical note, especially when you know that, it's Kazumi Totaka on Wii Sports.
I think the most recent game it's been in is Mario Kart 8?
Yeah, that sounds about right. And even then, it took a really, really long time to discover it.
Oh, it's in the remake of Link's Awakening. I guess that counts.
Oh, yeah, because it's, of course, in the original. That would make sense, too. So, let's talk about the music for Wii Sports, and let's get into the 5 critical tracks for the game. I feel like the one that has to be here, and of course you knew it was going to be here, this first track is, of course, Title Screen. And all the nostalgia rushes back and floods in with just an iconic melody that would carry forward into remixes for Super Smash Brothers and all this. But yes, an iconic melody from the Wii days for Nintendo, and it's the theme that plays when you boot up Wii Sports. You get to that title splash screen, and you gotta hit, A and B or whatever you had to do to continue. That part I can't really remember, but I mean, oh my goodness, a little flute melody to start off that's just da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Iconic, classic. You get this great piano melody that kind of carries into the verse, a little drums, a little bass. You even get a little acoustic guitar strumming in there. That makes sense for Kazumi Totaka. And then the flute comes back in to round things out. I mean, my goodness, it's just one of those great Nintendo themes from the mid-2000s. And it would be a crime if it weren't here on the Critical 5 for Wii Sports.
It reminds me of like a news station's intro theme. That is what I've always thought of every time I've heard this song. But yeah, no, this is the song. The fact that it's been remixed in Smash should be reason enough to be like, yeah, no, this is the song you're gonna know if you know any music from Wii Sports. This is the only one I can think of off the top of my head, so I'm looking forward to hearing what else is on the Critical 5.
Yeah, absolutely. That's funny you mentioned the news thing. It just makes you think like, oh, if the news were positive and happy. I even think like, on TikTok and places like that where people are like, hey, I'm a guy from Nintendo, and hey, I need a theme for this Wii Sports game. What can you do? And it's like when the theme is way too good for its own good, and all these layers coming in, just makes you think of things like that. Yeah, it's a classic theme. But what else is in Wii Sports? Well, we have to kind of get to the different sports to talk about that. And there's kind of like a pre-game theme. There's little music sort of riffs that kind of pop into the different events that happen. And then there's like post-game themes. But we go to tennis first for critical track number 2 from Wii Sports. And this is Tennis Select Position. I feel like something tennis had to be included because of its popularity. You'll see with the next track what we thought was the most popular sport. But, the tennis themes weren't the best. Although this one came to mind, and especially when you're selecting your position here at the pregame, kind of setting up how you're going to play the match, who you're going to play with, who are you going to play against. Could take some time, especially if you're new. And it's this catchy little groove here to kind of, set you up into the match. That, I don't know, it was just something that really resonated with me here. Just big nostalgia, liking to play the tennis matches, of course. And I remembered this a lot more than I did the results theme. So it's not the most complex theme here, but one that definitely taps into that fondness and retro nostalgia.
Feels like something that would almost fit in Persona 4 in terms of tone and instrumentation.
Sure, yeah.
That's the whole tone I get. I forgot that there was a song during this part of tennis, because I know obviously, like you said, tennis is silent, other than the rallying sounds. But this is it's a simple tune, but it's catchy. So I think I agree.
There is one sport that plays a song while you're playing. And you know what? It makes sense considering the environment in which you play this sport. Number 3 on the Critical 5, it's the most popular sport from the game. It would be bowling.
And we're absolutely certain this is not just an unused KK Slider song with the vocals taken out.
Right? I mean, again, when you think like, oh yeah, I mean an acoustic guitar piece? Oh yeah, Kazumi Totaka, the guy who does the music for Animal Crossing and things like that. Yeah, that it makes total sense. Though, I guess I don't necessarily think of acoustic guitar themes being played at a bowling alley. But, you know, if it's very nice and clean and sterile, as it would be in a Nintendo world, then okay, yeah, I can see that for sure. But wow, you know, for there to be a song that plays during a round of bowling and for everyone who played bowling, yeah, this one also definitely hit big. Again, it's just a nice chill groove. It's not super complex. You got some nice little sound effect things going in there with some extra little instruments to have a little bit of flair to it. So it's not as, say, simple as, you know, beautiful acoustic guitar music from Sumire last week. But yeah, it's nice and fun. Although still gives you the feel of like, maybe this is still like MIDI, and I don't get the live performed feeling from this. That's just how the instrument sounds to me.
Oh yeah, this is absolutely a MIDI of an acoustic guitar for sure. I joke, but this song does legitimately feel like it popped out of Animal Crossing.
Mm-hmm.
Like 100%. The tone, even I'm pretty sure that's the same drum font that he uses for Animal Crossing. I'm positive on that. I don't remember there being music during bowling, but I guess that's mostly because I'm usually paying more attention to the bowling, I guess. And it's very low key, which fits really well, honestly.
Yeah, and I think it was probably, you know, faded into the background and maybe not too prominent, just to kind of give like the ambiance, the setting of a bowling alley. So, I don't know, it does kind of tap into those times of playing bowling. And I guess, yeah, if you're at a house party, it's going to be loud. You're not going to be listening to it as much, but it's definitely there. Number 4 on the Critical 5 is actually probably one of my favorite games on Wii Sports, and that would be Golf Results. I just feel like there were more options with what you could do with golf, and that the gameplay was probably a little more tuned with how you had your swing. There was more of a degree for if your swing could go awry. I just liked golf a lot. Granted, as the Motion Plus technology got better, so too did golf get better. Same thing with adding disc golf in Wii Sports Resort. I mean, my goodness, but golf does bring back, you know, good memories, and I'm glad that they're including it eventually in Nintendo Switch Sports. I think that's a good inclusion. But the music here, again, it's another game where, like, you're out on a golf course. There's not going to be a music bed playing. So the results screen is pretty important for representing it, and wow, is it perfect. Again, you get the acoustic guitar of Totaka and his composition going, but also the piano coming in, and it feels just like it would be, I think, a golf broadcast on TV. I get, you know, big vibes of Jim Nantz, the American broadcaster here, usually for the Masters competition. Just be like, hello, friends. We're here at Woohoo Island. Like, I know it's not Woohoo Island here for Wii Sports. That'd be, you know, resort and all. But even still, you just get that vibe that's tapped in perfectly, which is, I think, great coming from, you know, a Japanese composer.
Yeah, we're not on Woohoo Island yet. We're in the sports dimension where all the sports live. I think I do remember this song, and I agree that it works really well for, like, you just finished a nice low-key game of golf. Is this at the very end, or is this between holes?
I think it's the very end.
Okay, I was about to say, if this is between holes, that might be a little much, but yeah, I think this does a really good job. And you've got those accordions that, again, are we sure this isn't unused music from Animal Crossing?
That's crazy. That's like a secret discovery. Like, Wii Sports is an Animal Crossing game in disguise, at least on the soundtrack front.
I'd believe it.
Do we pick boxing, though, for number 5 here on the Critical 5? No, I liked the other sport a whole lot more. This here, number 5 on the Critical 5 for Wii Sports, is baseball results. This one's more of a personal pick. I miss baseball a whole lot, and I feel like I bought Wii Sports Club just to play baseball again. So it was super disappointing when I could play it. Gosh, maybe they'll have baseball in an update in the future for Nintendo Switch Sports, depending on how well it does. A guy can hope, a guy can dream, right? The boxing tracks are different. And it's tough because on the cutting room floor, I had two that I had to put here. And sorry, boxing's not here. It's just very different, which again makes sense. The boxing environment's just a different sort of arena and feel to, so the music has to kind of match and just be very different. But I just like the weird horn here. It's a dumb MIDI horn, but it's an instrument and tuning that I don't think I've ever heard before. Does it emulate a Take Me Out to the ball game kind of feel? No, those are the organs that play in the game where you get like a single and it's doo 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 or things like that. That's total, tapping into the baseball environment. So I think they do a really great job with like the in-match music and the little jingles and the crowd noise and the sound effects. So I think that's kind of where Taro Bando has a point to play there. But this one's just a personal pick because I love the baseball. It's shallow, it's simple, but it's dumb fun. And, this track in particular means a lot to me.
So, you know what this one sounds like it is emulating? The horn does a good job of making it not sound like Animal Crossing anymore. Because that's not an instrument you're going to hear in Animal Crossing in this way. It sounds like the soundtrack to an 80s baseball anime.
Sure.
This is after the game, and it's the comedy relief scene after the really intense game, and that's what it reminds me of.
I can see that, yeah.
I've never watched an 80s baseball anime, but this is what I assume they sound like.
For tracks on the cutting room floor, again, there were two that had to be here, and sorry, we had to reuse one from, again, it's the most popular sport, and so we got to do it. But first, we have to put in main menu. So yeah, normally you'd think a main menu theme would go into the Critical 5. And it's this weird balance of I wanted to include as many sports as possible or as I thought should have been included. And also, what is the track doing musically here? Granted, I feel like there's a lot of nostalgia for this piece. You're kind of sitting on that main menu before you figure out what sport do you want to play. And it's a nice kind of just ambient piece of this and then like there's just a lot of like, oh yeah, this is Wii Sports for sure. And even like the YouTube comments in the video are like, oh, iconic, like, okay, fine. But I don't think it's doing too much musically, too much melodically. I feel like it's appropriate here to at least put it on the cutting room floor, but had to be represented in some capacity.
It is surprisingly tense.
Competition.
Yeah, this feels like the song that would play when they're like, let's take a look at our competitors for the day. And that, I think that fits super well. But I generally don't think this would have been Critical 5 material in general. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's good for remembering and looking back on it, but to have it take away the representation of the other sports and some of these more memorable melodies, I don't think so. Memorable melodies like another bowling track that just slips here on the cutting room floor because we can't have 2 bowling tracks in the Critical 5, and this would be Bowling Results. If there is one melody that I remember from Wii Sports outside of the main title screen theme, it's this one. And again, chalk it up to how popular bowling was with everybody. I mean, even in retirement homes, people love playing Wii Sports, especially back in the mid to late 2000s, especially in the late 2000s when it kind of got passed down to retirement homes. But bowling was it. And this would be the theme that you'd hear at the end of your 10 rounds. The melody I think of, da-da-da, 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 da-da. Like, man, Tataka nailed it with that one in particular. I just felt like it was more appropriate to represent the music that continually plays through the bowling match in the Critical 5 as opposed to maybe the more catchy melody that you don't hear as often. But it's iconic, and people in the YouTube comments are a little creepy about how many times they mention, I want this to play at my funeral when they show pictures of me and stuff. It's a little morbid, but I kind of feel that vibe, getting a little elder millennial here.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember this song vividly now that I've heard it, because so much bowling was played in my house that this was essentially like just always playing. It might as well always have been playing. It has a better guitar MIDI than the regular bowling song.
Yes.
Which is really weird, but yeah.
So what will I never forget about Wii Sports? Pretty much every sport except for boxing. Look, boxing was a chaotic mess that involved... They could say that it's like, oh, it involves real skill, but the sensitivity of throwing the punches was so garbage and not accurate that
yeah, boxing sucked.
It really was not worth it. There was some, kind of melodies that play for boxing. It's like, oh, okay, but the sport sucked. So I will remember all the sports and, great fond memories playing with them, in college dorms, with families, really everyone that played Wii Sports at the time. That was a tour de force. And wow, Wii was popular then in a time where gaming was just starting to take off with a mass market audience, I think. And it's only continued to this day.
Yeah, but I don't think it's as massive as the Wii, though the Switch, I think, is coming close, if not starting to hit par with the Wii, which is wild.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows where it's going to go from here. Hopefully, Nintendo Switch Sports is good, but personally, I don't currently plan on buying it. Maybe later. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know either. I think the idea of when it includes soccer, and for the best results for that, you're going to need to buy it physically so you get the leg strap, or if you have it through Ring Fit Adventure. That's something I don't have. So I don't know. I'm a little tenuous on if I'm going to get that or not, to be honest. I'm probably leaning towards no because I have so many other games to play. But I think it's interesting to talk about, like, if you think about how gaming has grown since then and that the Switch is almost, basically on par with Wii's numbers. I think it's something where, like, the gaming industry and the gaming audience has grown, but there was something to be said about Wii Sports and the Wii being like very prominent on like the news and in kind of public circles. So maybe like the conversation around the Wii was bigger, but gaming in general has just grown so much since then that, you know, you have PlayStation 4, you have Switch kind of meeting and surpassing the Wii's total lifetime numbers.
We'll have to see. I hope this isn't another 1-2 Switch moment where it's like, this game only works. I mean, Resort did fine, I assume. So maybe? I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm interested in finding out.
Yeah, me too. But like, you know, the gyro and the accelerometer, not as good in Joy-Cons as Motion Plus. So I don't know. Yeah, I think hard to see, and we'll keep an eye on it. To transition and talk about our next game, we like to highlight a fan cover, a fan remix, whether it's on YouTube, OC Remix, wherever. And of course, it's got to be that Wii Sports main theme. The YouTube account Sebastian Bachmeier, he pulled together some YouTube musicians and called it the Quarantine Orchestra. It must have been pulled together during the early days, at least, of COVID times. And so he titles this Wii Sports, but it's a collaboration between different YouTube musicians of that main title screen theme. So please enjoy. We'll be right back.
But enough about sports, we got something else to talk about. That's right, I'm talking about Bugsnax, which was a game that was originally released for PC, PS4, and PS5 on November 12th, 2020. Why are we talking about Bugsnax now? Because it is releasing on Switch, Xbox One, and Xbox Series S and X this week on April 28th, 2022. That's 2 days from release of this episode. I'm especially looking forward to seeing how it is on Switch, because I think this game would fit great on the Switch.
I agree, but it's also on Game Pass, if that's your kind of thing.
It is, which is also a great place to give it a shot. It was developed and published by Young Horses, whom we have talked about in the past for their game Octodad Dadliest Catch. That would have been all the way back in episode 93, so a little while ago, which I believe that episode was for Bugsnax's release date.
Oh gosh, it probably was, you're right. Oh man.
So that's interesting. So what is Bugsnax? Well, it takes place in a world inhabited by Muppet-like creatures called Grumpuses. They're not exactly Muppets, but I don't know how else to describe them. They're furry bean-shaped people.
Mm-hmm.
The player takes control of an unnamed journalist who one day is sent a video by the famed explorer Elizabeth Lisbert Megafig, who claims to have discovered an island inhabited by mysterious creatures she calls Bugsnax, and is inviting the player to come and see them for themselves. When the player arrives at Snaktooth Island, they do not find Lisbert, but instead find a poor, starving Filbo Fiddlepie, the self-appointed mayor of the town of Snacksburg. Filbo explains that at some point, Lisbert had actually gone missing, and from there, the expedition team all left Snacksburg to do their own things due to personal disagreements with each other, but also a generally shared dislike of Filbo. From there, the player is tasked with finding and convincing the remaining members of the expedition to return to Snacksburg, all while interacting with and catching the edible creatures called Bugsnax. Bugsnax are adorable. Most of them. Some of them are great, like Bunger, who I would die for. Some of them are existentially terrifying, and I would set them on fire if I saw them in real life, such as Sub-Sandipede. I hate Sub-Sandipede. I don't want to look at Sub-Sandipede. Some smaller species of Bugsnax, like the Strabbies, which are the ones you see the most, the little strawberry guys, you can catch them with a net. but some of them require the use of a remote trap that you can place and then just release when they get in range. But even then, a lot of them actually require you to essentially solve a puzzle to figure out exactly how to stun them in order to make them trappable in the first place. Like, some of them can, like, shoot fire and they will attack traps the instant they see them, or some of them are too big for your regular traps, or too fast, or something like that, and you basically have to figure out the process you need to do to be able to put them in one of the traps that you have. Once a Bugsnax has been caught, it can be given to a citizen of Snaxburg who will then eat it, at which point some part of their body will transform into the food of the snack they just ate, a feature that gets 2 reactions. Either, haha, that's so funny and weird, or, oh god, that's body horror, please no. Which is something that could be said about most of this game, to be perfectly honest.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from Lisbert and Filbo, there are 11 members of the expedition team, including Beffica Winklesnoot, Chandlo Funkbun, Cromdo Face, that's my favorite one, Eggabell Batternugget, Floofty Fizzlebean, Snorpy Fizzlebean, Shelda, Tiffany Lottablog, Wambus Troubleham, and Wiggle Wigglebottom. Yes, I listed those all just so I could say those names. Every character in this game is named the way that my roommate names Pokemon.
Also, that's a deep cut for old Show Me Your News podcast listeners. Shelda. Oh my god.
Oh, it is, isn't it? She's the only one that doesn't have a last name because she's like a wellness guru, essentially.
And she's Sheik and Zelda, apparently, combined.
I hope not, because I would hope Sheik and Zelda are a lot cooler than Shelda. I just love that one of them's name is Cromdo Face.
Yes. Not even Face, but Face.
Just Face. The best 2 characters, though, are Beffica Winklesnoot and Chandlo Funkbun. Beffica is this former socialite who really loves gossip and is your bestie. And Chandlo is a jock whom the size of his muscles can only be matched by the size of his heart. He's the nicest Grumpus in the world, and he can also lift a house. That's not a joke, he does that at one point. So, the questions of Bugsnax are, can the player retrieve and interview all the members of the expedition team? What exactly happened to Lisbert? And what's really going on with the Bugsnax of Snaktooth Island? Peter, this is where I will ask, what are our experiences with Bugsnax?
So, Bugsnax, of course, being a launch game for PlayStation 5, especially one that was offered for free as part of the PlayStation Plus offered games for that month. It's a game I activated through my library and downloaded to my console. And then I got busy with other games at PS5's launch, like Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Spider-Man Miles Morales, and did not play Bugsnax, and only recently deleted from my hard drive to make more room for other games. Look, I love Pokemon Snap. I love the inspiration that it obviously takes from that. And, you know, it definitely had a moment there, Bugsnax, on the internet for a while, whether it was the theme song that played during its reveal trailer, or the fact that we were all saying for months leading up to it, it's like, there's going to be a terrible, horrible twist. Like, it's playing too nice and happy and fast and loose to not have like some weird dark twist at the end. And then I guess sure enough, it does.
Oh boy, does it.
I still don't know what it is, but I can only guess. And yeah, have not played Bugsnax, but excited to learn more. And it was a game that I feel like we had to bring to the show at some point.
Oh yeah, 100%. Even if just for that one song that you know we are going to be talking about. I loved Bugsnax. I played it at launch. All the characters are great. All of the writing is great. The Bugsnax are all adorable except for Subsandipede. And it's just it's a fun, very funny game. But yeah, there's some darkness there that I ain't gonna get into, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I definitely recommend it to anybody that has like time for it. It's not the longest game in the world. It's, I would say, 8 to 10 hours, somewhere in there. So it's not short, but it's also not like, we're not talking an RPG here. That being said, I'm very much looking forward to the update that is also coming alongside everything, because I don't know how it's going to tie into the ending at all, which is, this update is called the Isle of Bugsnax. I'm looking forward to more Bugsnax, and I hope more people give Bugsnax a try now that it's going to be on other consoles, because it's worth your time. It's fun. It's funny. It's just good. So, as I mentioned, this was a Young Horses game. Previously, the developers of Octodad Deadliest Catch. This game was in development for 6 years. They purposely took it slow as to avoid burnout and to also make sure they had a solid idea of what the game would be, which Octodad must have done really well if they were able to just go for 6 years. That or Sony must have handed them a lot of money. Which I assume actually was probably that second one, since they did get console exclusivity.
At least by the back end of it, but yeah, early on.
Yeah. So the main concept of Bugsnax actually started taking form when director Kevin Zune sketched a creature he called a waffle pillar, which was, as you might guess, a caterpillar made out of waffles. And from there, Bugsnax was essentially born. Initially, as you mentioned earlier, the main inspiration for Bugsnax was in fact Pokemon Snap, but as the game continued adding mechanics and the trapping became a thing and all that, that list grew to include Ape Escape, Dark Cloud, and Viva Pinata. Ape Escape and Viva Pinata are very clear. I don't remember what it's called, but the carrot Bugsnax is like, might as well be from Viva Pinata, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
The game was initially supposed to have a much darker tone, but this actually got toned down over time. But again, not erased. It's still there. It's still there. When it released, it reviewed overall pretty well. Highest score is a 79 on PS4 on Metacritic. Lowest is a 72 on PC. The game was especially praised for its inclusion of same-sex couples. There are actually 2 same-sex couples in Bugsnax, being Chandlo and Snorpy, and Lisbert and Eggabell. In fact, for this, it was nominated for a GLAAD Media Award, GLAAD, for Outstanding Video Game for that representation specifically. But also, you know, people praised the world and the writing and the characters and just all that makes the world of Bugsnax just kind of fun to hang out in. As you mentioned at the top of the show, on release, the PS5 version was given out for free to PS Plus users. But despite this, you might think that maybe this means that Young Horses made a little bit less money than they would have otherwise. No, game is still outsold Octodad by a wide margin, apparently.
Wow.
So not only is it releasing on other platforms this week, like I said, it's getting a free DLC update called The Isle of Bugsnax. Don't know what that's going to entail. Looking forward to finding out. Now, the artist behind the main soundtrack of Bugsnax is Seth Parker, who we talked about in the Octodad episode. But there is one song that is not in the game, but is heavily associated with Bugsnax in general, because it's the main theme of the game, essentially. And that song is by Kero Kero Bonito. Now, Kero Kero Bonito is a British pop group that was founded in 2011. It is made up of Sarah Midori Perry, who does the lead vocals and keyboard, Gus Loban, who does backing vocals, also does keyboard, and is on the drums, and Jamie Bold, who is also on keyboard, as well as electric guitar and bass. Loban and Bold grew up together in a suburb south of London. And when they decided to make a band, they actually put out advertisements specifically looking for a third member who could speak Japanese because the two had built an interest sort of in Japanese rap. I think it's still kind of a niche genre over there. But there are like a few bands that I'm aware of that dabble in it. Perry was actually one of the first people to respond to this advertisement. And even though she didn't have any background in singing professionally, though she did have a history of working with a girl band in Japan at one point, she said that she answered the advertisement because she, quote, just wanted to try it. Which, go for it. It obviously worked out. The name Kero Kero Bonito is intentionally ambiguous as to what it actually means. Two possible definitions that Wikipedia lists are kero, being the Japanese onomatopoeia for frogs croaking, which, if you're a fan of My Hero Academia, you already know that because Sue ends all of her sentences with kero, or possibly being in reference to a Brazilian bird called the quero quero. Bonito, of course, means pretty in both Spanish and Portuguese. They released their debut mixtape, Intro Bonito, in August of 2014, and then their first album, Bonito Generation, released in October of 2016. There's a snippet from the Wikipedia timeline that says, quote, on 2nd February 2017, can you tell they're British? The YouTuber Bird, B-E-R-D, published a parody animation of the band's single Flamingo. The video went viral and became an internet meme, surpassing 24 million views as of January 2022. I have no idea what that is. Never heard of it.
Me either.
I think we might be old. Oh no, we're at the point where the memes are missing us.
Whoosh.
They performed their first full show in April of 2018, for which they recruited 2 extra members to make a full band, being James Rowland on electric guitar and Jennifer Walton on drums and sampler. Bold also records his own music under the name Whatfoot? What? W-H-A-T-F-W-H-I-T. Whatfoot. That. You can follow the band on Twitter at Kero Kero Bonito. That's K-E-R-O-K-E-R-O-B-O-N-I-T-O. Perry is Sarah_Bonito_. Loban can be found at Gus Bonito, all one word. And Bold has 2 Twitter accounts, but they have apparently both been long abandoned. So, good for him. He got out. In terms of their discography, this seems to be the only game they've done anything for. They have released 2 studio albums, 5 EPs, and 35 singles. One of those singles just happens to be our first critical track. And look, if you were anywhere near video games in like 2019, 2018, you've heard this song. Critical track number 1 is It's Bugsnax. This is, of course, the theme song of the game, performed, of course, by Kero Kero Bonito. It was first heard in the reveal trailer, and the internet latched onto it immediately.
I don't think we can adequately express just how much the internet loves this song.
which they should. This song is fantastic. It's so delightful. It's so catchy. Its lyrics are fantastic, especially when she mentions that the expedition team found something to fill the hole that many feel inside their soul. Which is probably one of my favorite lyrics in a song ever. It's very cute. Perry's vocals are just so fun. I've had this song stuck in my head for like 2 weeks. It won't leave. It's so good.
Shout out to the YouTube comment that says, an absolute shame Cyberpunk took this game's title of the most bugs in a video game ever.
I feel like an Earth Defense Force probably has that covered, though.
Oh, you know what? That's probably true. This song is so delightful. And I think you're right. We were talking before the show on like, this song isn't in the game, right?
Yeah, I don't believe it is. But you have to bring it up.
Exactly. Like, it's inseparable, and it has to be one with a bullet on the Critical 5. It has to be the first thing you mention, because this was part of the pre-launch hype. And yeah, wow. I think there's no escaping this song if you talk about Bugsnax.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm sorry. Talking about Bugsnax.
Everybody's talking about Bugsnax.
It's kind of bug and it's kind of snack.
All right, let's jump into music that is actually in the game, though. The first of which is critical track number 2, Learning the Ropes. This is the only one I'm not 100% certain where it plays. I know it's somewhere near the beginning. I would assume it's when you're learning how to capture Bugsnax in the first area, with Filbo, who is starving on the ground and desperately needs you to bring him a Strabby. This is the tone you're going to get for most of Bugsnax's soundtrack. Just these fun synths and these almost vocals sounding like high notes. It's just a fun song. The melody, I believe, is a sort of leitmotif you'll hear in a lot of places in the game. And this happy-go-lucky sort of tone is, this is Bugsnax, mostly.
I feel like it's a really good representation of, like, you're right, there is like a positive energy to it, especially with the higher pitched instrument that does have a kind of vocal quality to it. But there's a darkness under it. Like, the lower instruments are a little foreboding, especially when like it starts the piece like that. And when we talk about how there's a dark undertone to this game that eventually gets revealed, I feel like that's kind of foreshadowed a little bit in this music here.
Yeah, you know what? That bass synth does kind of does have that feeling, huh? Following that is critical track number 3. This is Welcome to Snacksburg. As one might guess, this is the song that plays in Snacksburg during the day. That's it. That's all it is. And so it's a very, very important piece because Snacksburg is your hub for the entire game, where you can go around and talk to all your friends, and also Filbo. And no, I love Filbo. Filbo's a good boy who is just the biggest mess there has ever been. And I think he's also voiced by Yuri Lowenthal, but I don't remember.
I was just about to ask. I feel like it was someone like him or Max Middleman, like someone like that. Yuri would make sense.
Now I gotta make sure. I'm pretty sure it's Yuri Lowenthal, but I gotta make sure. Filbo Fiddle Pie voice actor. Max Middleman.
So I mean, someone like that, yeah.
Yeah. And he's a mess. He's a huge mess, and I love him to death. You can interview the people of Snacksburg around here, which, you're a journalist. You're trying to get the story of the Bugsnax. And it's just got this nice... There's not really the sort of dark undertone in here because that all comes from all of the members of the expedition team yelling at each other and telling each other that's why their wife left them. An actual thing that is shouted at a character at one point. They do not shy away from being like, oh, these are all adults and they're mean. Like, all of these people are terrible people, except for like 2 of them.
Maybe don't have your kids play Bugsnax.
maybe don't at all have your children play Bugsnax. But I dig this song a lot. I think the melody is just a lot of fun. And it's a very important song. You're going to hear the song a lot.
Yeah, for it being the hub environment, like, you kind of have to put this here. But I wouldn't have expected the mouth flapping sound effect of being a little instrument there. That's fun. And then for what it's worth, for people who are like, who's Max Middleman? Ryuji from Persona 5. So there's that. What a happy little fun song.
Let's get a little less fun and a little more serious. The next track, critical track number 4, is Ghost Stories. So this plays during a very specific part of the game where at night, everybody's sitting in a circle around Snacksburg, and they're telling ghost stories, and they tell the story about the queen of the Bugsnax. And then all the lights in the village turn off. All of them. And when they all turn back on, the village is now covered in signs telling people to leave Snaktooth Island immediately. And this song plays while everybody's freaking out. And sort of you're trying to investigate, hey, what the hell just happened? And this is the first major moment where you're like, oh, there's something evil happening on Snaktooth Island and we don't know what it is. And I think that this song being the introduction to that is, it works perfectly for it. This dark, foreboding tone and these like pizzicato synths that really also sort of help bring across like you are investigating something during this section. This song is very, very good. It got my attention very quickly.
I love how it also doesn't take itself too seriously. Like, if you wanted a dark swerve, you could have played up the instrumentation so much more, make it seem epic, but it goes from creeping in to adding just some more and more instruments until everyone's fully unsettled. And I think that does a great job. I think if you want that sort of dark, sort of story kind of working its way in, this is a great way to set it off.
Very much so. I agree. It's the higher synth. It's almost like a theremin. Not quite.
Woo, 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 woo. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's really impressive that it could still keep that sort of cartoony vibe to it while also feeling uncomfortable.
Precisely, yes.
And then, of course, we have critical track number 5, final track on the critical 5. It's Escape from Snacksburg. This is my personal favorite song in the game. And it, as you might guess, plays near the end of the game. Actually, kind of at the end of the game. This is the final sequence where things have gone down and you gotta get the hell off this island immediately. And I don't want to say much more than that, but again, it manages to keep that sort of cartoony vibe to it. But it's very important that this brings across the stakes, because this is a part with stakes. Characters can die in this sequence.
Uh-oh!
Yeah, characters can straight up die. So there are stakes in this part, and I think this song does a really great job of bringing that across while also bringing across that it's kind of goofy. And I don't know, I love this song a lot. It's delightful.
I think it's the continuing bass synth chords that kind of just carry on through it that give it that sense of, no, you like keep going, keep moving, and the heaviness is there with you. As much heaviness as can be derived from these instruments, right, that you've been dealing with the whole game. I agree. I think this is my favorite too, if we're talking about so far the songs from the game. And yeah, wow, now I can only imagine how this is played in actual context of the game.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna mention nothing else, but yeah, you can lose members of the expedition team, and it's kind of super messed up, and I love it.
Mass Effect 2 Suicide Mission.
Not quite, but close. People should play Bugsnax to see what I'm talking about, so that they can. I need to see reactions from my friends to the ending, because it's. All right. Cutting room floor, I got 2 tracks. Let's get back into the fun part of Bugsnax with another song from near the beginning of the game. This is Those Darn Bungers. Bungers are both the best and most annoying Bugsnax you will ever have to deal with. Because what they do is, if they see you, they love you so much that they will charge at you and hit you so hard that you go flying across the map.
How would you describe a bunger?
It's a little hamburger with curly fry tusks and curly fry feet. And it's got a little foil covering like a fast food hamburger, covering its backside. And when it charges at you, it goes bunger, 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 bunger. And I love them. They're great. They're the best.
Looks like they're based on a rhinoceros beetle.
Yeah, they sure are. And they will absolutely throw you across the map if you don't watch out. By the way, I should mention, you can't die in Bugsnax. You can't die. You don't have health, but you can get, like, thrown away or set on fire and briefly lose control of your movement. That kind of thing. This song is fun because I'm pretty sure it is the first time you catch a bunger, because it's like messing up a ketchup patch, which is mentioned in the song. Condiments are grown on plants on Snaktooth Island, like hot sauce and chocolate sauce and ketchup and mayo. And you can load them in a slingshot and fling them as bait and stuff like that. But this is a fun song. It's got more of that very delightful fun. We don't know what's happening yet tone to it. And I wanted to bring that back at least one more time.
Yeah, this doofy vibe is kind of what I expected with Bugsnax, so it's good to hear a little more of it, especially with a memorable creature.
And the last track on the cutting room floor is Cake Quake. Want to know another thing about Bugsnax that you might not know? It's got boss fights.
Oh.
Yeah, it's got multiple boss fights, actually. I don't remember what boss fight this plays during. I just really like this song. The only one that I really truly remember is Mama Melon, which is just a giant watermelon bug that has, like, children, and you crush it with stalactites, I think? I don't fully remember. That's the only one I remember at all. But this song is great. It, again, takes place probably around the halfway point of the game, and it's just very sinister, and it feels almost like something you would hear in, like, an isometric roguelike action game nowadays during a boss fight.
Absolutely, 100%. Spot on there. It takes a while for the percussion to come in. That's interesting. So it does a lot of synth work there at the beginning before that bass drum kicks in. Yeah, interesting. And the title makes me think of there's a podcast out there called The Comedy Button, and one of their old bits was talking about a movie, if it were ever made, called Snakequake. It's like, if, snakes, big snakes underground caused, big earthquakes. So that makes you think of Cakequake. But yeah, neat to hear. I didn't know there were boss fights. Good to know. Maybe I got to give Bugsnax a try, whether it's on Game Pass or just re-download it on PS5.
100%. We've had a couple of friends pick up Bugsnax recently, though I don't think either of them finished. Matt started Bugsnax a long while ago, like a couple months ago, and then I think he got busy and didn't get back to it. And our friend Soul at one point just came out of nowhere and was like, sorry, everybody, my entire personality is Bugsnax now.
Oh.
But I don't think she finished it either. But more people should play Bugsnax. Bugsnax is delightful. It is probably one of the most unique and just sort of memorable games I've played in the past couple years. It's just fun. Bugsnax is a fun time that definitely does not take some inspiration from Junji Ito near the very end.
I don't think we had ever talked about two games on original Soundchat that had both been launch titles for different systems, but now's as good a time as ever to talk about Wii Sports and Bugsnax. Honestly, the more I think about it, it's a good pairing of games, and I'm happy with how this one turned out. So thank you so much for listening. That will do it for us this week on Original Soundchat. You can find me on Twitter at PeteSpeakEasy. Joe is over at StringPixel. The video version of the show is on the Rhymes with Asia YouTube channel, but it's that MP3 podcast version that you want, and that's hosted by Anonymous Dinosaur at anondino.squarespace.com. That's where Joe's other podcast, Smash Your Pieces, is hosted, and Smash Your Pieces and Original Soundchat, you can get them wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, even on Spotify, where we have a feed of podcast episodes, but we also have a big playlist. And if we talk about a video game track on this show and it's on Spotify, it's getting added to this monster playlist on Spotify. Joe, anything added this week?
So obviously Wii Sports being a first-party Nintendo title, not on Spotify. And also, even if, I'll be real, if Nintendo did by some miracle put all their music up, I don't know if Wii Sports would be among those uploads.
Yeah, it's not like an official release soundtrack or anything. Definitely like a ripped music situation there.
Mm-hmm. But Bugsnax is. In fact, Bugsnax, I believe, was added relatively recently, because it wasn't on there when we did the best of 2020.
Yeah.
Though, to be fair, that was an easy choice anyways. It's Bugsnax was the song we used for that honorable mention, and that was on Spotify.
Right.
But the official soundtrack at some point did get thrown on there, so that'll be added to the playlist.
That's excellent. And when you're done listening, you can find the show on social media at Soundchat OST. Leave some feedback for us. How are we doing with these episodes? And also, you were wondering, Joe, if people liked when you brought, games to the show that nobody's ever heard of. So give some feedback there at StringPixel, at Soundchat OST. Let us know. And also give us some suggestions for games that you'd like us to cover in the future. Joe, who are we talking about next week?
Well, you mentioned games that nobody else has ever heard of. Next week, I'll be talking about Slide 20XX.
I will be talking about Takenobu Mitsuyoshi. Oh, yeah. But not for the game that you'd think when it comes to Mr. Mitsuyoshi. That should be a good time. All right, Joe, let's play us out.
I mean, obviously, it has to be a cover of It's Bugsnax. Again, that's the song. I also am not 100% certain that I would be able to find a remix of any other song. I'm sure I would be, but It's Bugsnax is the one, and I found a pretty good cover by a YouTuber by the name of Hackerling. So please enjoy that. Her voice is pretty damn good, and I had a good time listening to it. I hope you do too.
Thank you so much for listening this week on Original Soundchat. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Kind of bug and kind of snack. Try to catch them in your trap.